Today's episode of the BS Podcast, the Licking Our Wounds BS Podcast, if you're a gambler, is brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor, the only fan-friendly app for buying and selling tickets for sports and music. Do everything on your phone. Download the free SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Do it for me. 2017, this is your gift for me. You're going to sign up for SeatGeek and you're going to buy tickets for something. Please, come on. Today's episode also brought to you by Hint Water. Hint is pure water, no sugar, no chemicals, infused with the taste of fresh fruit like watermelon, pineapple, or blackberry. New customers get a single variety pack shipped directly to their door. Normally $24 for only $15 if you go to drinkhint.com/BS and put in code BS. That's drinkhint.com/BS, code BS. We're also brought to you by TheRinger.com. That's where you can find my Friday playoff football columns and maybe even a little NBA column this week, as well as the best in sports, tech, and pop culture. Lots of NFL, NBA, and Golden Globes up there right now. We had Jam Session and The Watch, two of our most popular podcasts. We merged them yesterday and did a whole Facebook Live, and that's also available as a podcast on The Watch's podcast feed. Pretty fascinating Golden Globes last night. I want to talk about it at some point during the podcast. We're also brought to you by The Ringer's aforementioned podcast network that features The Watch, Channel 33, The Ringer NFL Show, The Ringer NBA Show, Ringer University, and more. Subscribe to Channel 33 to hear my new Sports Movie Hall of Fame series. A third show coming on Wednesday. We recorded this already. I won't tell you what movie we did, but it's coming on Wednesday. Subscribe to Channel 33's feed. Now, speaking of podcasts, we wanted to thank my friends Dan Pfeiffer, Tommy Vitor, John Lovett, and especially my buddy John Favreau, who I've known for almost 10 years since he was a pup, for giving The Ringer so much terrific content during the crazy 2016 presidential election. And it really was crazy. Literally, it was crazy. It was bonkers. But we love working with these guys. All of us did. And we wanted to wish them luck with their new endeavor at Cricket Media, which they launched today. They have ambitious goals, and we are rooting for them. Good luck, guys. All right, let's talk football. All right. Well, we didn't do that well, gambling-wise, in round one, but that's okay, because round two promises a lot more stability. Cousin Sal on the line, not in person, on the line this time. It is so rainy and scary right now. It's like almost a full drizzle. This is like a monsoon by LA standards. Sal, are you okay? Is your car okay?
I'm okay, yeah, okay? But it was safer to stay off the roads. You're right.
Jeez.
Call in.
I mean, when it starts this kind of semi-heavy drizzle, it's really terrifying. People don't know how to handle it.
We might get upwards of 3/8 of an inch here, so
yeah.
Better be safe than sorry.
People in LA, be careful out there. Really, don't use your cars unless you absolutely have to. So we didn't love this week. The only game we really loved was Seattle, and we liked the Giants. And I do feel like if the Hail Mary doesn't happen, I really would love to see how that Giants game plays out. But what was your big takeaway coming out of round one, other than that those games were pretty terrible?
Well, here's the thing, and it's easy to take all four favorites. It really is. The four better teams are at home for the most part. Actually, they're all four better teams were home, I think. And, I just look at it, maybe you feel the same way. In college, I would take all four favorites in the playoff round, and I'd get my ass handed to me, right? Like every year. Maybe even in junior high school. I can't even remember how far back. So then you start looking like, oh, can Miami cover? Yeah, they could keep it close. They're not as good, but they'll keep it close to back up. And we did the same thing with the Giants, as hot as the Packers were. And then you're stuck with all these underdogs that suck.
Right.
And, I don't know. I don't think we were in a lot of those games. Obviously, the Giants should have kept it closer. That Hail Mary, which needs to be renamed, by the way, it just can't be a Hail Mary anymore. Do you have any ideas?
Hail Rodgers? Well,
yeah.
I think one of the great accomplishments of his career, and maybe even the number one accomplishment other than having a brother that won the Bachelorette, is the fact that when he's in Hail Mary situation now, it's a must watch.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else who has a Hail Mary, I feel like it's like an onside kick, or it's probably way worse odds than an onside kick, but you watch and you go, this isn't going to work, but it'll be fun to watch somebody bat it down. And when it's Rodgers, I'm like riveted. I'm thinking like, oh, I wonder, is he going to run the play where he throws it right to the goal line, the middle of the goal line? Is he going to go deep end zone? How high is he going to throw it? Like, I always feel like he has a chance. I wasn't remotely surprised that they caught it. When can you ever remember in football watching for 4 decades not being surprised when somebody catches a Hail Mary? Like that, to me, that's an achievement.
Oh no, I can't. I mean, it's almost the same conversion rate as an extra point at this stage. It's insane. I think someone tweeted me and said it would be fun to rename it when Rodgers tries it the touchdown attempt. So it's like there's a field goal attempt, but if it's too long for a field goal attempt, this is a touchdown attempt by Rodgers for 50-yard bomb. But
I was thinking we just call it Mary. Because he's not even hailing Mary. He's just calling Mary, and he's just gonna basically get it done.
Maybe not even Mary. Maybe just meh. MEH.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
Well, let's go. Let's
yeah,
quickly.
I don't know. Like, why aren't the defensive should spend half their practices defending against this during the week? Because it really turned the game, right? Like, did you have the Giants weren't going to win after that? I don't care how close they got.
I thought they had no chance of winning, but then when McCarthy inexplicably went for it on his own 40 on 4th down, which I come and go on this one. It's a little bit like the blackjack. Do you hit against the 12 against the 2? In this case, they had all the momentum from the Hail Mary. The Giants were looking for any excuse to get back in that game, and now all of a sudden you give it to them, you get stuffed. They score, I think, on the next play, and all of a sudden it's 14-13. I don't know why they didn't go for 2, by the way. But
Right.
I thought the risk outweighed the reward. If you get it, great. You're on the 40-yard line. You know,
I was okay with it. I just think the play is not great. And Montgomery has put up good stats the last month, but that can't be your 4th and 1 guy. It just can't be. He's a wide receiver. He goes down too easily. Again, I know he does. He has good numbers throughout the last month, but that's not the play.
Well, and that's another thing. Like, run better plays. Whenever they do the advanced metrics, and they're like, actually, that percentage-wise, it's like, assuming that they ran a half-decent play, that was not a great play. It was a little bit like 8-9 years ago when the Pats against the Colts, when we were on our own 30, which was basically one of the great advanced metrics moments of last decade, when they went for it and they didn't get it, and the Colts scored to win the game, and the advanced metrics community was saying, no, actually, statistically, that might have been the right play. It's like, well, that's fine, but we ran a terrible play. We ran a quick out to Kevin Falk against the wrong defense. You can't tell me that was the right decision. Let's go through the games quickly, and then we'll end on that Giants-Packers game. What did you learn from Houston-Oakland? Here's what I learned. Brock actually did better than I expected, and I don't know if it's because the Raiders' defense is just is an atrocity and way worse than maybe we thought it was, or did Brock go to another level?
It's an extra tightening of the dagger in your heart when you bet against Brock and he runs for a first down on 3rd and 6, and then he does the first down motion. It's like, oh my God,
I know.
Have you really earned that? Have you earned that? I deserve to lose everything I have on this game.
He was fired up, and Oakland's D, I thought they had shut down the run, maybe hit him once. I thought the crowd would turn on him, but I think everybody realized pretty early that Connor Cook was just overmatched, and not only was he a little bit scared, they had this shot of him in the warm-ups where I would have changed my bet right away. They just showed him, and it was just he had the frozen face. I was like, oh, my God, this could be a disaster. But not only was he scared, but it seemed like Oakland was scared to use him. And everything they did was out of fear. And I just don't think when you're in a situation like that, I don't think you can play out of fear and hope that the guy's not going to hurt you because your defense isn't good enough.
It didn't seem like the Jack Del Rio type team, the team that went for 2 and won the game, earlier in the year, like push it down their throat kind of thing. Yeah, he's throwing screen passes and everything. Like everything's going to be, high calculation passes. Although that ended up being intercepted by Clowney. But yeah, take the training wheels off, throw downfield, establish something early. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get, you're going to lose psychologically. You're not going to have a chance. I mean, it's 18 for 45. With 3 picks. So.
That's pretty big. Yeah, I mean, once they knew he had to throw, he was in trouble. Houston's D, I thought, did everything they needed to do in that game. I still don't. If we've learned anything over the years, it's don't overreact to round one way or the other. Houston's D, they do have some blue chippers on the defense. And it's, we're going to talk about the Patriots line a little bit. The Patriots line is going to be really high. Houston's defense is definitely good. I don't think it's great, but it's good. And they have cornerbacks to cover people, and they can get a pass rush. And,
that was the game they needed. Yeah, definitely. I don't know how they got Crabtree to drop all those passes. I don't know how they did that. That was pretty magnificent. And on the other side, Khalil Mack had 11 tackles, but he needed to get on Osweiler. He needed to sack him. Any pressure would have helped, and there was just none of that. And
it was just one of those games.
Yeah,
it was one of those games. Houston fumbled 3 times, recovered all 3, right? Any one of those flips the game a little bit. Osweiler made an awesome throw at the end of the first half. He hit Hopkins, in the corner. It set up a touchdown. It was a great throw. It was as good as any throw we've seen all weekend. So he did make a couple plays. So anyway, I don't want to talk about that game too much because Oakland – there was a really telling moment right before the game started. This was another time I would have changed the bet. Khalil Mack was coming off the field. I think they'd gotten a stop or whatever had happened. And he was walking right by Connor Cook, who was talking to Del Rio. And he almost bumped into him, but he didn't give him the ass slap. Let's go, buddy. Come on, here we go, dude. Come on, we believe in you. He just kind of walked by him. And I remember watching that go, oh, that's not good.
But you're on one team, I'm on another kind of thing.
Yeah, but also this guy is scared and he sucks and we're screwed. That was the body language doctor. That's what I learned from that. Seattle, Detroit.
A wise man once told me, never put a backup quarterback on the road in a teaser, and that was you. And then we went ahead and did it. We had Seattle as our best, and we put Seattle with a teaser with everyone else. Miami, Oakland, and the Giants. And we had not only one, we had 2 backups in the teaser.
I know.
And that didn't work out great.
Well, I just want to say for the record that it's round 1 and I just wanted to gamble on all the games. I do. I mean, there was no bigger stay away than Raiders Texans probably in the last 10 years in the playoffs. But it's it's the first game. I don't want to just watch it. It's so terrible. So you take a flyer.
We're running out of games. The other thing is, maybe don't listen to us for the informational part of the program. Maybe that's not what's important. I got a tweet from someone. This is the God's honest truth. A guy told me he got out of a ticket because the cop pulled him over, and he was listening to us. He was listening to us on the BS report, and the cop liked us and let him go. And that's a true story.
When did that happen?
I don't know. I could get you I'll forward you the tweet, but it apparently happened last week. So there you go.
I mean, that's a better accomplishment for us than losing the 3 teams that we tease Seattle with.
Of course, right.
Meanwhile,
of course, a guy murdered a hobo and they let him go because he listens to us.
Meanwhile, classic Simmons Sal fashion. We're really in rare form. The only game we really, really liked was Seattle.
That's what I mean. We put them with every teaser. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was it was the only one we were Seattle's going to win. They're going to beat Detroit. And yet we never just said, let's do the money line or whatever. I didn't really learn anything from that game because I went into it thinking Detroit was a bad team as far as playoff teams go, and they were. And yet now it seems like that's our round 1 overreaction team, the Seahawks. Oh, they can run the ball. Oh, they just have the old school. They look like the Seahawks. It's we didn't learn anything from that game. They should have beaten Detroit by 20 points. They're a much better team, and I don't know if are they going to be able to run the ball against Atlanta in round 2? I don't know.
I don't think they will as effectively. But I will say this: the best thing about Seattle in that game is the adjustment Pete Carroll made. I mean, Wilson was dropping back to pass, and there was nothing there. He was getting slaughtered back there, and they're like, all right, let's run the ball to establish the pass. And luckily that worked. Rawls went for 161 yards. And the Lions' defense was pretty soft, I would say, overall. And that's how it turned.
Yeah, it is funny. These teams, they get into a situation in the playoffs where they could either fight back or they kind of roll over. And you saw it with Miami too. The Steelers' offense reached a point where you could see Miami's defense just kind of checked out a little bit. And Miami's defense was just awful in that game. What's crazy is that line was so high that I almost felt to the bitter end that Miami had a chance because what was it, 20-6, and they had a little momentum near the end of the half. Matt Moore, it looked like they were going to at least get a field goal. Matt Moore looked good in that game until he almost got decapitated. But he had that
He
big fumble.
he had to still be concussed during those, right? I mean, that was first of all, I don't know how that guy wasn't thrown out of the game. That was a car crash right in front of our eyes, but helmet to helmet. But yeah, and then he fumbled, and then Jay Ajayi, I thought he'd be an impact player. He was, but only because he forced a fumble on his own quarterback. It was right when they got into a good spot is when bad things happened for them.
I think Matt Moore's brains were a little scrambled.
Yeah.
I think Nance and Sims kind of they did it the whole game. It's Nance and Sims are broadcasting these games like it's 1995. You know, there was another time when the two defensive backs collided on that long pass inside the 5-yard line for Miami, and the guy was down for a while and he gets up. He's being helped off by 3 people. He's obviously not right. And Nance is like, he looks a little woozy. It's like, yeah, we're not seeing that guy again, Jim.
Right,
that guy has a concussion. You know, it's just the whole thing was weird, and I couldn't believe that Moore just coming back a play later after he'd been lying on the ground for 5 minutes. All of it was weird. I don't know what the concussion protocol is. I don't know. The calls don't make sense. Like you had in the Giants Green Bay game, Montgomery fumbles. Hockley, no whistle. We don't hear any whistle. They come in 3 seconds later blowing a whistle. They say there's forward progress. I don't know how there was forward progress. He got tackled, and then he dropped the ball. Then they said his knee was down. I never saw his knee down. Did you see a replay that made it actually seem like his knee was down? Because I didn't see it.
I thought his right knee was way down if you did the math on it. Yeah, I did.
But you're guessing, though, right? You didn't actually see the knee hitting the ground, did you?
But what was the call on the field?
The call on the field was that his forward progress was stopped.
Right. Yeah. So
but watching in the naked eye,
I thought he was down.
Watching in the naked eye, I didn't see the forward. I mean, if his knee was down, great, but there was no replay that definitively showed it. And if you're going to say his forward progress is down, you're calling that in like 1/10 of a second.
The forward progress thing is stupid. I think Montgomery knew and thought his knee was down and then just placed the ball down. That's how it looked to me. But the forward progress is nowhere there.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge play and was basically the same kind of play as Eli throwing the ball and fumbling it as he's throwing it. And if they just said, no, his arm was going forward, we're not replaying this, let's move on. It was strange. Yeah. I mean, they should have lost that game.
I don't think that play gets enough credit either, only because I think the game was over and it didn't matter if you were watching it. You were watching for the Giants to cover on a teaser or something stupid. But Clay Matthews, that was the play of the year, right? The defensive play of the year.
It was great.
Strip sacks Eli. Now the ball goes forward 8 yards, so no one heard a whistle, but everyone assumes like, all right, that looks like an incomplete pass, so we're going to stop. Matthews, then a Giant actually does pick it up, and Matthews bowls him over and picks the ball up, recovers the fumble like 13 yards from where he strip sacked in the first place. Spectacular play.
Well, Ed Hockley had already determined that it didn't matter if his whistle went off or not. He was just going to arbitrarily decide if the play was over. So maybe they none of them knew what to do. Did you learn, like the Steelers were really good in that game. Miami's defense was not good. I don't really know what it means for Kansas City. Pittsburgh already lit up Kansas City. I will say, when they were talking before the game on the pregame show, I think one of the guys on the Fox show picked Pittsburgh just because it was a revenge game. It was either the Fox show or the ESPN show. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're mad that they lost to Miami three months ago. I could actually see that logic a little bit. Like, hey, that was our worst game of the year. Let's avenge it. Now I'm wondering, does that same logic apply to Kansas City in round 2? They were humiliated on Sunday night against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh goes into it thinking, oh, we can beat these guys. And KC's like, we're not letting them come into our house. And they do that whole thing. It's an interesting wrinkle. I think
for sure, but that same revenge factor doesn't play with with the Patriots and Texans, right?
True. No,
like I think like you look at a blowout and like, you know, Miami, Pittsburgh's like we're not worse than Miami. We're definitely not 2 touchdowns worse like we were back in October, whenever it was. Same thing with Kansas City, Pittsburgh. But I think you look at 27-0, Houston, New England. Not only is there no revenge factor, and we're going to use that bulletin board material, we're going to inspire us, but I think that dooms the Texans right there. I think they realize, no, we're not coming back from that.
The Pittsburgh's defense looked better than I expected. I don't
Yeah,
know
for
whether it
sure.
was because of Miami's offensive line. Miami was missing their center. They shut down Ajayi. They made some big plays on the edge. And, I've been poo-pooing the Pittsburgh winning streak a little bit, which all the Steelers fans love to remind us of, that we're not giving them enough credit. That was the first time I was like, wow, if they came into New England, I'm going to be a little more nervous than I expected. The one thing I will say, we've said it week after week, Roethlisberger throws 3 balls up for grabs every game.
Right.
He did it yesterday. A really terrible pass near the end of the first half that the defensive end dropped back, or defensive lineman dropped back, should have just caught. And then he threw 2 more picks. But he's throwing 3 balls up for grabs every game. And if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, that's still the thing I'm the most worried about.
I think they did what they had to do. They did what a lot of teams we talked about don't ever do. They went for the kill. They have a high-power offense, and they went for the kill. And the game kicked off at 1 Eastern, and at 1:21, they were up 14-0. And what did that do? That took Jay Ajayi out of the game. That's
Yeah.
it. It's like, he's not going to rush for 220 now because they're going to have to throw. Matt Moore is going to have to throw and beat you. And that's basically what happened. They held on to that lead, and good for them. But I don't know if I think that's going to be tough to pull off against Kansas City.
Probably in retrospect, not ideal for Miami to be playing in the freezing cold weather.
Right.
I think it definitely hurt their defense a little bit. It was interesting that I forget which game it was yesterday, but one of the games the ref's whistle froze. He had to put the whistle next to the heater.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So cold weather teams at home, something to file away for the future. I quickly on the Giants game. For 25 minutes, it seemed like the Giants were better. And if Odell had that just murderous drop on the first drive, that should have been a touchdown. They're going. All of a sudden, Rodgers gets the one drive. He's dancing around, gets the touchdown at 7-6. Now we're going into halftime. Who did you think was going to win before that Hail Mary?
Before the Hail Mary, I thought the Giants would keep it close. I thought it was going to come down to the last drive. I really did.
I did too.
And
I
by
liked
the
the way
way,
Eli was playing.
21-13, they kick off to Rainey, lunging attempt, making sure he gets both feet in bounds. Insane. That ball was clearly going out of bounds. It would have started from the 40-yard line. That was a difference maker, too, if you don't count the Hail Mary, which was really turned the game. But
that was horrible. And I also think I would have Odell back for every kick. I don't know why they always do it in desperation mode. Just put him back. If you're the Packers, it's like, do you want Odell Beckham returning kicks? No. So put him back there. Should we talk? We got to talk about
Steelers do it with Brown, right, on the punts, right?
Yeah. We got to talk about the boat stuff really quickly, just because we ignored it last week on the BS podcast. I thought it was a non-story, but I think it's going to be a story basically for the entire offseason. And I'm sure as the week goes along, there's going to be some, are they going to trade Odell? Should we trade him? Can they handle him? Is his head in the right place? He's too much of a diva. Can you win a Super Bowl? All that stuff's going to start. I thought the boat thing was a non-story. I know everyone on social media, it's great. You have fun with it, all that stuff, but that's not why they lost. They gave up 38 points to Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what the boat had to do with that. They literally couldn't, once Rodgers Cromartie came out, they couldn't stop him. So I don't know what that has to do with the boat.
It is a non-story. It's definitely a non-story. It wasn't the night before. It was 6 days, right? 6 or 7 days before.
Right.
And whatever, they're fine. It's only a story if you want to, because because of the media, they're going to hear about it for these players for the rest of maybe their lives, or at least for the off season.
Right.
So if you could handle that kind of thing, don't worry about it. But if you can't handle it, think twice then about going on a boat in Miami shirtless, 6 days before. But yes, absolutely not. That's not why they lost to the Packers.
Would you? I forget who was texting me this yesterday. My apologies to a buddy of mine who doesn't want to be named because he works as a sports job. He was wondering why the team with the higher win-loss record doesn't host the round 1 and round 2 games.
The team with the higher win. What do you mean?
So the Raiders went 12-4, and Houston went 9-7. But Houston hosted the game because of. I'm fine with the seeds. I get it. It's great. But if you have that 4-5, but the Raiders have won 3 more games, should that game be in Oakland? And same thing with the Giants and the Packers. The Packers, they get a home home thing just because they were in a division that didn't have anyone as good as Dallas. Should they host a round one game against a team that had a better record than them? And also, would it make the last week of the season more interesting if win-loss record determined who hosted the home games? The seeds wouldn't change, but higher record gets to host it.
Well, first of all, before we go any further with this, I need to know who texted you. We need to know. The nation needs to know. This is an outrageous theory proposed. So just tell us.
It was, I can't tell you. I'll put it this way, though. It was a Giants fan who was salty that game was at Lambeau. So you don't like this theory?
I don't know. But sure, I don't think it would have helped the Raiders. The Raiders would have been like a 7-point favorite in Houston had,
against Houston,
Carr played.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have mattered. I'm okay with you get a home game if you win a division. That's kind of what teams set out to do every year, to win their division, right? So they should be rewarded with a home game.
All right, we're going to talk about we're going to guess the round 2 lines, but first, download the Lyft app, get a ride in minutes for less than the cost of a cab. Every Lyft driver is fully vetted through their 10-point safety standard. They're rated after every ride. Only the best stick around with Lyft. You can tip in the app, which obviously leads to happier and better drivers. 9 out of 10 Lyft rides get a perfect 5-star rating from the passenger. It's also the highest rated ride-sharing app, and it's your buddy whenever you need a ride. People are actually getting rid of their cars and relying on Lyft to get around. I've heard stories about this. Right now, Lyft is offering our listeners a special deal. Get 3 free rides for up to $10 each, up to a $30 value when you enter promo code Bill Simmons. Download the free Lyft app today. Enter promo code Bill Simmons in the payment section. That happens to be my name, Sal. 3 free rides.
Is that your name? What?
Yeah, it's my name. 3 free rides up to $10 each. LYFT. Try it out. All right, round 2 lines. What is the Saturday?
Right.
What's the first Saturday game?
First Saturday game is Seattle at Atlanta, 4:35 Eastern.
All right, I guessed 4, and you guessed 4.5, and the line is
4.5.
Oh,
right
you
now
nailed
it's
it.
4.5.
You nailed
Opened
it.
at 4.5 and has remained at 4.5. That's what you like to call the Vegas zone.
Yep.
I think it's fair. Obviously, I think it's fair.
I think Atlanta has to be happy with what they've seen from the Seattle team. Because I think if they can get to 30 points, if Atlanta can get to 30 points, I don't think Seattle can match that.
And this also a revenge game. Atlanta was winning most of the game in Seattle, if I remember correctly, and then Seattle took the lead, and then there was a non-pass interference call. I think it was on Julio Jones, and they lost by 2. Is that right?
Yes.
Big game this year.
Dan Quinn, former Seahawks defensive coordinator.
That's big.
Yeah.
That is big.
Could be a long hug before the game. Maybe a long understanding hug after. There's gonna be some hugs.
And Matt Ryan voted first team All-Pro, is now minus 400 to win the MVP. Rodgers plus 450, Brady 5-1.
Yeah,
Carr. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a shame we weren't talking about those Matt Ryan odds for 5 weeks on this podcast without ever actually doing anything about it. At one point, it was like plus 250. We're just staring at it.
We could have grabbed it.
Yeah, we're just staring at it.
Is
forever.
that fair for Carr to be 150-1 and Brady 5-1? Like, didn't we see enough? I know it's a regular season award, so you don't count the playoffs. But I think we saw enough from that Raiders team to know that Derek Carr is the guy. That's why they had as many wins as they did. Why is he played 3 more games than Brady, who's 5-1 odds, and he's 150-1?
These are great points. I would say Ryan, Rodgers, and Carr should all be above Brady. And Tom Brady is one of my favorite athletes of all time, and I love the Patriots. But it's just hard for me to – he missed 4 games, and they were going to cruise to that division anyway. And when he wasn't playing, they still won 3 or 4 games. I don't know. It's tough.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with either or any of those guys getting it. I just can't believe Carr is 150-1.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And the other 3 are low. So.
That's nuts. So Atlanta – I think this is a great spot for them in general because they win this one. Now you have Green Bay going into Dallas. You got to be a little scared. I guess the no Jordy Nelson possibilities are we'll wait till we guess that line. But the no Jordy Nelson would be the only reason I would be a little bit, I don't know, we can cover. But this is set up nicely for Atlanta. I think Seattle, I just think Green Bay, Dallas, and Atlanta are a notch above Seattle. Seattle is the worst team talent-wise and just everything in that conference. And Atlanta is the 2 seed and somehow ends up with the easier matchup. This would have been a fun one. I remember in the mailbag a million years back, somebody suggested about, I think it was even for NBA, but I think I stole it for NFL too, whether in round 2 the team should be able to pick who they want to play, the higher seed team.
Right.
Because if you're Dallas, would you rather play Seattle or Green Bay?
I would rather play Seattle.
Yeah.
I'd rather play Seattle for sure, and I think it would be great. You make it like a press conference, Belichick. It's appointment television. You can even make it a pay-per-view. Bill Belichick has to announce at the presser who he wants to play. It's great.
And no matter what decision they made, the team that was dissed with whoever the pick was would be totally.
Right.
It would be the nobody believes in us thing. It would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturday night. Pats Houston, I guess 14 and a half.
I want to say, if Atlanta plays December Atlanta and not January Atlanta over the years, they should win this game. But who knows what happens?
Well,
what becomes of it.
Maybe we'll finally get the greatest moment in Georgia Dome history.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got a lot of Goldberg. I think Goldberg even retweeted someone who said that his match was with Hogan. Was the number one moment.
That was the last great moment in the WCW. Goldberg continuing his streak, pinning Hollywood Hogan in the Georgia Dome, 1998. Right afterwards, WCW fell apart. It was never the same. So some other people were saying Carrie Strug.
Oh right,
was one of them. She won in there, and there was a million bowl games and SEC games and all that stuff. But who can keep track of college football? I certainly can.
Yeah.
So I have the Pats by 14 and a half at home against Houston. What'd you have for that one?
I said 17, and it's 16.
Oh, you're going to beat me.
So I get that one. I'm up 2-0. But
so basically, the logic there is that it unfolds like the Pittsburgh-Miami game, where if the Pats go up 14-0, Houston's got to start throwing the ball. Now you have Brock Osweiler in a position where he's got to make plays, and all of a sudden it's 28-0. That line still seems a little high to me because Houston's defense is pretty good.
Oh, no way. Let me Patriots fandom aside. What would the spread have to do for you to put money on the Texans?
Oh, it'd have to go it'd have to go to 40.
25.
40.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I would take Houston plus 40.
Do. I think Vegas got slammed this weekend. I mean, a lot of teasers went away because if you had the underdogs, and there were a couple unders in there too, but especially in that last game, if you had the Packers in the over and all the favorites all weekend long, they got slammed. So I think they're just making this high, not even trying to encourage Houston money, but just make it aligned so that people just stay away from this game. Like, let this be the game you don't bet kind of thing.
They're deterring us from wagering. I think
the buildings are crumbling.
Do you think Vegas won or lost on that Giants-Packers game?
I think they got killed. I mean, because it went up Sunday. It was 4. I know it went down originally. It was like 7, went down to 4.5. But when the big money, when the has to be big money to move the line, is Sunday afternoon, and it went from like 4 to 5, 5.5 some places. So,
oh, you're right. And the same thing happened to Pittsburgh because that line moved 2.5 points.
Right.
It went from Steelers 9 to Steelers 11.5. So they got smoked on that. They had to have lost on Seattle. Seattle went up 1.5 points. Mm-hmm. And what was the fourth game?
And I don't know a lot of people other than you or I betting the Raiders on Saturday early afternoon. But I don't think they did very well.
Betting the Raiders is just like, I don't even know. It's like being at a party and somebody offers you a Jell-O shot and you just take it. It's the first game. How do you not bet on the first playoff game? We should have stayed away. I don't have any regrets. All right, Sunday morning.
Well, there are no Jell-O shot games this week. But what's the psychology going into this? So now we have 4 favorites covering. We know. Do you go into this thinking, all right, I'm going with the home team favorites again? They're 10-2 in the last 3 years, not covering but winning in this round. They're what are they like 16-4 in the last 5 years? I think just the home team winning and advancing this round. So do we say, all right, it's going to continue, or do we say, well, there's no way this is going to happen? This is the road teams have to at least cover some of these, and you have Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Green Bay, tried and true playoff teams on the road. Like this is a scary week, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. the home team's going for the home favorites all going 4-0 last week is definitely a monkey wrench. Wasn't the year before? Didn't every road team cover a year ago and
Right.
won? Now we had the complete opposite.
But they were better. Like Seattle was
Yeah.
better than Minnesota, I think, and they covered. And Cincinnati, Pittsburgh was weird.
Well, I think we're gonna luck
Yeah.
out with. I think that Atlanta line's gonna drop. I think it ends up at 3.5. Would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think people like the Seattle team and almost are projecting what they think is going to happen versus what we've actually seen. So Sunday.
Let me ask you this
Yeah.
about the Patriots real quick. Is there a chance you sit Brady? Now, 27-0. That's substantial. You beat them early in the week. Was it week 3 on a Thursday
Yeah.
night or something? 27-0. Do you start Jacoby Brissett? Does Belichick say to Tom Brady, he's like, hey, Tom,
Stop
thanks
it.
for everything. We need you to sit here.
That's
Jacoby
ludicrous.
Brissett. Jacoby just knows
Come
Houston.
on.
He knows the defense. Well, it wouldn't be a slap in the face. It's just like we're just going to rest you. We don't want to start any problems.
That's ludicrous.
All right.
Maybe Hanson Jimmy.
27-0.
When does this would be a good bet? Not sound overconfident, although it's hard not to be overconfident against this Texans team and the biggest
Yeah.
gambling spread in 19 years in the playoffs. But when do you think Jimmy Garoppolo comes into this game? Would be a good over/under bet.
Interesting.
Like 6-minute mark, fourth quarter. Would you go over or under?
There will be a stat. Does he take a snap for sure?
Oh,
Yeah.
he'll definitely take it. If you're going to bet on the Pats plus 16, you should bet on Garoppolo taking a step.
-6. Yeah, I'm with you.
Or minus
I'm with
16.
you.
All right, what do we have for the first Sunday game?
All right, Sunday, 1 Eastern, 105 Eastern, Pittsburgh at Kansas City.
What did I say for this? 3 or 2.5?
You said 2.5. I said 3.5. I thought it'd be higher. I like Kansas City at home. It's 1.5.
Yeah,
People
that makes
loved what they
sense.
saw from Pittsburgh yesterday.
Boy, it's hard. I mean, there's a great undervalued home favorite case to be made at KC playing home with the Tyreek Hill X factor, the revenge factor, all that stuff. Man, it's hard to talk yourself into KC in this game now after Pittsburgh just, even with the 3 terrible Roethlisberger throws per game, it's just they're so loaded. It's hard to go against them. I don't know. I'm going to be sorting my feelings about it all week. That's a great line though. 1.5 is nice. I like it.
It is pretty good. And you know what? It's harder because you watch Le'Veon Bell, and it's something you've never seen before. It's just the way he's skipping around in the hole. He'll gain 4 yards before he decides to make a move
start
one
moving,
way or
yeah.
another.
Yeah.
Like what's his average miles per hour on a run? Is it like 6 before he gets going? Like it's really, really weird.
Well, I know
I think Justin Houston's the key to this. If he doesn't play, Kansas City's in trouble. If he plays banged up, they're in a little less trouble. But he needs to be a force there.
Well, I know you're a huge soccer fan, so you'll totally get this analogy.
Yeah.
He reminds me a little bit of Messi. Messi does this thing where Messi's moving as fast as everybody else, but it seems like he's going half speed. And then when he turns on the jets, it's like he's got the Vin Diesel CO2 pack in his engine. And Bell's like that too. Bell's moving half speed, but he's somehow moving as fast as all the other guys in the field. And then when he goes, it's like wait a second, how did you do that? He's terrifying.
I'm glad you know, I don't care so much that you brought it up soccer, but I'm glad you didn't reference your daughter's soccer team.
I can if you
that
want.
was a good way to start.
I can. You want me to?
He reminds me of Margot on my daughter's soccer team. She plays through the ball. She goes and goes and goes.
Hey, this a little bit reminds me of Una on my daughter's soccer team. Actually, she had the same kind of wheels. All right, so
I do see a lot of Una.
So do we think Pittsburgh will be favored in this game at any point this week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it might go the other way a little. I'm just trying to figure out how your Patriots luck out here. Was Big Ben out for the year after Steelers' last-second win or something?
Well, he's in the walking boot after the game was fun. I enjoyed that as a Pats fan.
Coach Tomlin's
I hope he's 100% for next year. Well, I will say this. Very rarely does a playoff line end up in that 1-2 range. It usually either it swings toward the road team, or it swings back up to like 2.5. But 1 and 1.5 is not where it'll end up. So people will bet this one way or the other. All right, the last game, your Cowboys, your boys.
Home for the Packers. Yeah. I said 3. I thought there's gonna be a lot of Green Bay backers early on. You said 4.5. You get it. It's 4. So we tied 2-2, and
We
you're
tie
up
for the week.
9-6-4 on the year,
Wow.
and you win.
I clinched
You
for
win
the
the
year then.
season.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, you
Look at
won
me.
the season.
All right.
What a creep.
How
I
scared
don't,
are you?
I went back and forth. With that Green Bay Giants game, I don't think there was ever a game where I went back and forth as to who I was rooting for. You and I had the Giants on a teaser. You and I picked the Giants with the points. Yet I don't want the Giants to beat the Cowboys the third time. That makes for a miserable 8 months following for me. But, goddamn, the Packers are so damn good. Like, Cobb is a game-time decision. He has three touchdowns.
I know,
Like,
that
I don't
was
know.
incredible.
I'm not much less nervous with the possibility of Jordy Nelson and Montgomery not playing. Like, he just, Rodgers, was it 5 straight games with 30 points? Like, he's going to get there. Even if he has a slow start, he's going to get to 30 one way or another.
I asked
Gary.
Weinberger, huge Giants fan, president of BSMG. I was like, what was it like to root against Rodgers in that game? Rodgers was so great in that game. Like, what was the mood in the room? And he was like, it was just quiet. It was just us sitting there in silence, that being unable to stop it. It was basically what happened for the last 2 hours of that game. And it's just scary to be in any playoff game where you don't have the best player on the field. All due
Right.
respect to Dak and Elliott and the D and the O-line, all that stuff. But Rodgers is the best player in the league right now. He's been unconscious for 7 weeks. And and he can absolutely go into Dallas and have the confidence to win there. And I don't know. It's not great for you. And then you have Dak in his first playoff start, which results have been mixed over the years. I remember Brady's first playoff start was the snow game against Oakland. So hard, and he was terrible in the first half, and then in the second half in OT really came on. But it's different animals. Speed moves a little faster, a little more pressure, the whole thing, and it's a good one. I think that line should end up at 3. I gotta say, I think Dallas should be a 3-point favorite.
That's what I picked. I thought it would be 3. And how many people are going to take Green Bay on a 2-team teaser? Like getting 10? Are you kidding me? That they're going to see that as a lock. I think they do have to move that line down. I think Dallas, with all respect to Dak, it's got to be Ezekiel Elliott's game. It's got to. They have to control time of possession. They have to keep the ball out of Rodgers' hands and hope for the best. Like, I don't know.
Tate's
I don't know
nodding.
how you stop this team.
You just made Tate like really nod violently when you said it was
Really?
it was
Oh,
Zeke
good.
Elliott's game. He totally agrees with you. Tate, who do you
Okay,
think wins
good.
Dallas Green Bay?
I believe in Green Bay, unfortunately.
Tate's on the Green Bay bandwagon.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Julius Peppers has to win a Super Bowl.
Here's the best thing you have going for you, Sal. Cowboys making the Super Bowl against the Patriots or Steelers would be the all-time rating splooge fest in the history of Roger Goodell's life. And if you don't think he's going to do everything he can to make sure Dallas gets in there,
Oh, I see.
oh yeah, oh, I think we could see both Hebners. We could see David
Really?
Earl Hebner as the different end zone judges. Oh yeah, oh stuff could happen.
I'll take it. You know what? You cheated all those years to get to the Super Bowl. Your team, we could do it one year. People
Pat-
will forgive us.
Pats Cowboys or Steelers Cowboys is the all-time biggest Super Bowl rating we've had.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
Yeah,
hard for me
let's
to
get it
believe they're
done.
just going to roll over and let Aaron Rodgers steal that from us and then lose to Atlanta in round 3. And all of a sudden we have like Pats Atlanta.
You think maybe they call the pass interference in the end zone this week on the Hail Mary? Maybe something. There's got to be something different.
Yeah, maybe
The referee's gonna-
maybe Ty Montgomery doesn't get forward progress in 1/1000th of a second because his body started
Right.
to bend backwards. Yeah, you might see. I promise you won't see Ed Hockley next week. I thought he was all over the place in that game. All right, quickly before you go, the Don Julio shot of the week. It's the world's original handcrafted tequila with multiple unique tequilas, including Don Julio 1942, the best luxury tequila you will ever drink. Our shot of the week, I'm deferring to you on this. I'm just going to follow you blindly. Clemson against Alabama and Nick Saban, who continues to coach with the rookie level mode on in Madden. He just will not leave college and come to the pros where the big boys are. The Alabama people get totally mad when you joke about this. They were really
love it.
mad. There was some fake news about me and Mallory making fun of Nick Saban for staying in college, because Mallory and I have joked about that forever, because I'm always like, how do you stay in college if you're a great coach? Come to the pros.
Right.
Why wouldn't you want to battle Belichick? And, there's an element out there that believes college is the best. What's better than running the Alabama program and having all these awesome athletes? I would like to see him in the pros again. Let's see how good he
It's
is.
such a different thing. It's such a different thing. It's you. It's in a way, it's you working for ESPN and you hanging your own shingle. It really is. Like, you call all the shots in college. You really do. And then you get to the
Right.
pros. You're gonna be on a shitty team. You're gonna lose 13 games, which you hadn't done in 7 years as a college coach. I don't know. I don't think you could slam a college legend for not going pro.
Well, in the pros, it does seem like you need the quarterback one way or the other.
Yeah.
And if you don't
Right.
have it, maybe not worth it. But like if the Indianapolis job opened up, go team up with Andrew Luck and go kick some ass.
Yeah.
I
That
don't
wouldn't be
know.
bad.
When like Kenyon Drake is your backup running back, it's a little too easy. So
Yeah.
make our pick for us. Shot of the
All
week,
right,
Clemson,
here's-
Alabama.
I'm gonna make it very simple. I don't know if the people listening for my college football insight, but you're not gonna get it here. Other than before the year started, I bet the SEC team at 5-2 to win the title. And I don't know if you followed me, but I don't win a lot. So let's take Clemson plus 6.5 in the rematch from last year. Deshaun Watson puts up a monster game and they cover. So let's take the points here.
All right. That sounds like a good Don Julio shot of the week. On the Ringer today, Roger Sherman laid out the 3 ways Clemson can beat Alabama, and they made a pretty compelling case. So check that out. Cuz, we will talk to you next week.
Let me just say, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Ben Affleck tonight, Ruth Nega,
Ooh.
and Floy Vance performing. Later in the week, Amy Adams, Jessica Biel, LL Cool J, and Octavia Spencer, Cousin Sal Sure Thing. This Friday, I will have my bet of the year. I already know it, Bill.
Okay.
And I think you know it, too. I already know it, and I'm going to have it this Friday. I'm at the Cousin Sal on Twitter. And maybe we'll do the podcast like an hour after the Cowboys.
Yeah, maybe we go
heart-wrenching loss.
I think we do a Sunday night podcast next week.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Why not? It's right. It'll be right after the game.
All right, Cuz, good job by you.
Good job by you, bud.
All right, Joe Buck's going to call in. Want to talk to him about Aaron Rodgers and that Hail Mary and the upcoming NFC playoff games. But first, are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Well, posting your job in one place is enough anymore. For the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites. And now you can. With ZipRecruiter.com, post your job to 100-plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. Find candidates in any city or industry. Just post once and watch your qualified candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen candidates, rate them, hire the right person fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. Right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Once again, ZipRecruiter.com/BS. And again, we talked about hint water earlier, but you know you should drink 8 glasses of water a day. So why don't you? Well, you don't because it's bland and you want something that tastes good. Here's the solution. Drink hint water instead. Hint is pure water infused with the taste of fresh fruit. Flavors like watermelon, peach, mango, grapefruit, and many more. No sugars, no chemicals, just great tasting, all natural, fruit flavored water. Plus, you don't have to carry heavy cases of water back from the store. You have it delivered right to your doorstep. Right now, new customers get a single variety pack shipped directly to your door, including 3 bottles each of Hint's Hint's 4 most popular flavors, either pineapple, watermelon, crisp apple, or blackberry. It's normally $24, but get it for $15 at drinkhint.com/BS. Code BS. That again, drinkhint.com/BS. Code BS. And now, Joe Buck. All right, on the line right now, we have the same publicist, Louis K. And I had to get this guy because that was such a fascinating game yesterday, and I wanted to get his take on a couple different things. He has a new book out called Lucky Bastard. I can't remember if he's ever been on the podcast before. Joe Buck, have you ever been on this before?
What, have you suffered a series of concussions or something that
I
I'm
think
not
I
aware
have.
of? No, I've never been on your podcast.
Not way
before.
back?
I know that you rip me on your podcast from time to time, but I'm here to be present and accounted for and ready to go.
You only made me mad twice. You made me mad in 03 and 04 because you were doing your job, which was to remind Red Sox fans that we hadn't won in 85 and 86 years. And then...
Correct. I'm sorry about that. It was my fault.
Well, no, but you learned. Here's the thing: you learned when you did the Cubs this year. I thought you were very diplomatic with how you handled it because I know you learned from 04, right?
Well, walk the streets of Cleveland and ask if they think the national announcer on Fox was rooting for the Chicago Cubs. They'll fall all over themselves and cry and
Oh my God.
say that I was in the bag for the Cubs. But it's just a no-win. I mean, and I've learned to live with that, and I've learned to live with the "you hate my team" and "you suck because you don't like my Tigers" or whoever it is. So, when I'm not there representing one side, you're kind of in Switzerland. You're in middle ground, and
Right.
then there's a no-win factor in there. So you just kind of let it bounce off and realize in most cases it's not personal. In some cases it is, and those are the people that I really fear. And I'll be running into my hotel. I've been chased in your town. I've been chased in Boston into my hotel by two drunk guys walking out of the Beantown pub one time
Oh my God.
in the aforementioned 2003. One guy looked at his friend. They stagger out. I'm getting back to the hotel after one of the games. And he's like, "Is that Joe Buck? Wait, is that Joe Buck?" And then they started coming at me, and I went into a brisk walk. I had too much pride to run, but a brisk walk to get to the inside of my hotel, and I avoided a pummeling, which I'm very proud of myself for.
I'm not surprised by that story, and I've been to the Beantown pub at least 25 times, and none of that
it's a good
surprised
place,
me. Yeah, they
actually.
got a little pool
I've
table in
been
the
there
back.
since.
Yeah, I left the
Yeah,
jacket
I've been
there
there
once,
since.
never got it back. So, yeah, the other time I remember being upset with you was when you got upset about Randy Moss at Lambeau.
Oh God!
But you've
Really?
admitted
we're
since.
going to go over this one.
No, that's it. Those are the only two times. I'm trying to remember. You said I ripped you. Those were the two times I remember.
I'm just kidding you. I know that our mutual friend John Hamm said, I'm on Bill Simmons' podcast defending you. What the hell did you do to him?
John
I have no idea.
That's
he
bullshit.
Can get in line. He's on
No.
the list.
John, you and Ham and Paul Rudd, all these guys, you have like this little St. Louis Mafia thing, us against them thing going. I've noticed.
Well, you do too with your little
With the Boston.
us
I know, we
against
do have
them
the Boston thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I get it.
you're at Lambeau yesterday.
Yes.
Rodgers, there's 6 seconds left, and Rodgers is in Hail Mary mode, and you know it's coming. And I just talked with Cousin Sal about this. He's the first quarterback I've ever seen where in a Hail Mary situation, you actually think you'd be surprised if somebody at least almost didn't catch it. What's your mindset? Do you practice the call in your head ahead of time? How do you act as that's unfolding?
No, I think it's interesting. I just listened to the call. Those moments kind of come and go when you're doing it. And then I was flipping around on NFL Network, and I happened on the highlight, and I wanted to hear how it sounded because you don't really think about it that way when you're doing it. And I think what my mindset was, 6 seconds, no timeouts. It's third down or fourth down, I don't know, whatever down it was. They're outside field goal range. So Troy and I were both looking for something quick, pass complete, out of bounds, have a shot with 1 second left to kick a field goal. And then when he does the old Aaron Rodgers wheel it around and load up the gun thing, what came out of my mouth, and I'm kind of proud it did, as it turns out, is that, whatever I said, nobody's better at this than Aaron Rodgers or whatever. And you're right. It's crazy that we are to the point where a Hail Mary, teams can go decades without one of those things working, and they're usually a complete throwaway. And this guy's hit 3 of them in 3 huge moments over the last 2 years. And so you're right. I mean, it's like kind of took your breath away. First of all, it's friggin' freezing.
Yeah.
And secondly, there it is. Like, my God, there's Cobb. Somehow it's like he handed it to him in the back of the end zone, and instead it's a 50-yard heave or whatever it was. It's unbelievable that he can do that.
And it actually turned out it was luckier than it seemed at the time. At the time, it seemed like this planned play where he was, Cobb, go to the back part of the end zone. I'm going to hit you in perfect. But it actually, Cobb wasn't the intended receiver in that play. So there was a luck element. But when it's Rodgers, you don't even consider the luck element because he's Aaron Rodgers. You're now. How many years have you done the NFL now? Almost 20?
Yeah. Well, I mean, since I guess more since '94. I came in with that new crop of people when the world was stunned that somehow Fox got the rights to cover the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Lo and behold, it was because they wrote a bigger check. And, they bring Summerall and Madden over, and then they bring Stockton and Millen over. They bring their production teams, and then it was like, okay, we need depth. We have nobody else, and we don't want to do everybody stand up and pick up one network blazer to your right, and now you're at Fox. So they hired a bunch of young guys. And like I joked at the time, it was the Lucky Sperm Club. It was me, Jack Buck's kid. It was Tom Brenneman, Marty Brenneman's kid, Kenny Albert, Marv Albert's kid, and Kevin Harlan, who's Bob Harlan's son, who was a longtime executive in the NFL. And there we are. I'd never done the NFL in my life. I'd never done high school football. And I went out for an audition, and it went well. And they hired me basically walking out of the door, and next thing I knew, I was at Soldier Field doing the Bears on opening day. It was kind of crazy.
Wow. I'm still mad at Tom Brenneman. He was mean to Manny in 2003. I still haven't totally forgiven him. I have some healing left to do with Tom Brenneman.
He was mean to you?
No, to Manny. He got a little salty with Manny during a playoff game. That's the thing. This is what you guys have to deal with. We take it so personally when we feel like the announcers aren't on our side. Collinsworth was on here 2 months ago, and he's convinced that every city thinks he's against their team. All 32 NFL cities.
I am too, and I get the baseball stuff. It makes more sense to me in baseball, and I think it bleeds over to the NFL. Like, I hate that guy because you're a baseball fan, so you listen to Don Orsillo or whoever it may be over the years, and I know he's in San Diego and he's gone, but you're listening to Orsillo and Remy, or in San Francisco, they're listening to Kruko and Kuiper, and they're doing it from that fan's perspective. And It's like, when the opposition scores a run, like, on a base hit into left field, that'll score a run, and it ties the game at 2. And then I come there, and I got to go, hey, base hit into left, and the game is tied at 2. And they're like, I hate this guy. He's rooting against my team.
Well, what the worst sport for this is NBA, because NBA has I don't know if you have NBA League Pass, but it's just homers in every city, including in my city, Tommy Heinsohn, who doesn't think the Celtics have gotten a call in 58 years, and he's just freaking out about the refs. Oh my God! So then when you actually watch the Celtics on TNT, you're so conditioned to thinking the refs are out to get you. It really takes like an hour to adjust. To be like, oh, wait, this guy, why doesn't this guy think we're getting screwed on the calls? Oh, because Tommy Heinsohn's in my life. That's why.
Right. It's a real thing, and I get it. And to be honest with you, I'm a victim of it too, and I get it as the fan side of it, because the one sport I can root for, my team, is hockey for the Blues. I'm from St. Louis. I'm not John Hamm,
right,
but I'm a hockey Blues fan, and so my daughters and I, we go to a lot of games. I have tickets behind the net. It's like I'm obsessed. And when they made the conference finals last year, for as great as Doc Emmerich is, and for as great as Kenny Albert, and as good of a friend as he is to me, I'm listening to these guys going, I want to hear the Blues announcers. I've listened to them all year, and now when it matters the most, I'm listening to national guys tell me how great the Sharks are. And I don't care. I don't care how great the Sharks are. So I was pissed as a fan. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I get it.
Now you get it.
And it was a good education. But I don't want to come on your podcast and just bitch and whine the whole time.
You're not bitching and whining. This is a good conversation. I do think we're headed toward a world, and I don't know how many years away we are, and it might be 10. It might be 15. It might be 5. I don't know. But we are headed toward a world where you get to pick your own announcers. And the key key for me will be how the big rights holders, you saw ESPN, they mess around with it, usually with the college football championship, where they have the main telecast, and then they have basically the telecast devoted for the fans of either team, right? And they've tried this in soccer too. And I do wonder if there's a world 10 years from now where you're calling the Packers-Cowboys game, and yet there's 2 other Fox channels on FS1 and FS2 that is also running the game, and it's just diehard Cowboys fans doing one game and diehard Packer fans doing the other game. And maybe that's where we're going. I don't know.
We may be, and I think there's some merit to that. I think it really works in baseball. I think in the NFL, there really are no local announcers except on radio. Every game's a network game, so
Right.
it's a little bit different that way. But I do get it, and I think there's some merit to it. And believe me, if I'm still doing this in 10 years, you can come hit me in the head with a brick and pull me out of the booth and lock the door, and I'll be done. I'll be the one bitching and moaning the get off my lawn guy in my own house, and probably tuning into the Blues, John Kelly and Darren Pang if they ever make the Stanley Cup final.
But maybe that's your last act. It's funny hearing you talk about how you're done because you're still in your 40s, right? Aren't you still in your 40s?
Yeah, but I'm kind of in dog years. I started early.
Yeah.
I kind of came out of the womb doing this, so I love it. I swear to you, people go, "Oh, he doesn't care. He's not passionate." It's the opposite. If I'm not trying to dominate a game, it's because I know people are tuning in for the game. They're not tuning in for the Joe Buck show.
Right.
They're tuning in for the game. And I've joked all the time that if I get hit by a bus going into Lambeau Field, first of all, there'd be a guy with a big Packers jersey on driving the bus. Secondly, they would still play the game, and there probably wouldn't be a moment of silence. And I'm at least smart enough to know that's how it is. And so, people go, "Well, go ahead."
Well, I was going to say, because we're about the same age, probably the most seminal, shocking moment in the history of sports TV was when CBS just got rid of Musburger. And I think that was like 1990, something like that.
Him a couple of times.
Right. But that time it was inconceivable because he was CBS. And he did everything. And he had been in every, you thought CBS Sports, you thought of Brent first, and then you thought about the leagues they had. And then they just got rid of him. And we were all stunned. And it's like, well, guess what? They still have all the sports that you were watching anyway. It didn't affect the ratings. It was definitely kind of an illuminating moment.
No, yeah. And the funny thing about that was it set into motion that specific firing an opportunity for my dad. And because Musburger got fired, CBS had just picked up the rights to Major League Baseball. Musburger's gone. He was supposed to do the games with Tim McCarver. My dad was supposed to do the second layer game and do it with Jim Cott. Well, now Musburger's gone, and they give my dad, at the age of 65, the main game with Tim, and it didn't go well at all. I mean, it was, people I think fondly remember my dad for a million different great reasons, but I can tell you that 2-year period of him doing national baseball on CBS with Tim McCarver was brutal on our family. Rudy Martzke was the main USA Today critic. He was hammering him every Monday, and it was not a fun time for him and consequently for his family, trying to make sure that he got through that unscathed, and he didn't. He developed an ulcer and almost killed him. And all that happened because CBS abruptly fired Brent Musburger. My dad had a 2-year deal with a 2-year option, and he ended up doing 2 years. That was it. And McCarver moved on with Sean McDonough, which is kind of, it seems like it's 4 lifetimes ago, but that was in the early 90s.
I've heard that your dad, those 2 years of the baseball, that it went so badly. I watched all those games. I never felt like, I don't know. I never felt like, oh man, this guy's having trouble or any of that stuff. Is there a possibility there was a little bit of revisionist history with that? Or you're saying that in the moment it was really that bad? I just don't remember it.
No, I don't think it was bad. I think the criticism was bad. And
right.
It was at a time where there were no blogs. There were local radio, believe it or not, and TV critics and newspapers. And then there was one guy who had a national voice, Rudy Martzke, who, if you made that column, USA Today on Monday, you were holding your breath. And that was still at a time I followed, I was doing Fox in 94 and the World Series in 96. So I was a part of that generation too. And that column would come out and you would just, it was like Charlie peeling back the corner of the Wonka bar looking for the golden ticket. You're holding your breath going, oh, my God, don't be in here this week.
Right.
And if you got through unscathed, that's how much power he had. And he didn't like my dad. And when the main critic for the country doesn't like you, They had a history, which is detailed in my book, Lucky Bastard,
Yeah.
available at Amazon and in fine bookstores everywhere. When he doesn't like you, you're done. And he and Tim didn't get along very well. And Tim didn't really want to work with him, and my dad didn't really enjoy working with Tim for the most part. Tim was the big power guy at CBS at that time. And my dad was kind of like, oh, Brent Musburger's gone, here's Jack Bach. And they never really had a true partnership that either one enjoyed. And Tim kind of won out. And then ironically enough, there I am 5 years later, paired with Tim to do the World Series when I was 27, which is just crazy to think about now.
You guys love each other now, though, right? So obviously you got
Absolutely,
past it.
but I had to pull him aside, and I don't even know. He's in his 70s, and so I'm in my late 40s. So I don't know, whatever it is, 28 years difference, whatever the number is. And I had to pull him aside at our first seminar and say, I was a kid, and I was a little intimidated, but I had to do it. And it was kind of just sitting there between us. My dad was thrilled I was paired with Tim because he knew I was protected against anything that could happen in a baseball game. But the guy next to me had seen it, done it, played in it. And I said to him, look, I know it didn't go well with my dad. But you and I are together now, and we're going to be judged as Joe and Tim, not Jack Buck's kid and Tim, not how was it with Jack and Tim. It's you and me. And I know it didn't go well with my dad, and my dad was my best friend. But we're going to have to go forward from here. And I can tell you, Bill, that we were together for 18 years, and I grew to love the guy like a brother, like a weird uncle, as I used to joke with him. and we never had one cross word in 18 years, and I had his back and he had mine. And nobody taught me how to deal with criticism. Not my dad, not anybody, better than Tim. I mean, I don't know what we can or can't say on here, but, it was like, oh, they're getting on you? F them. They're not sitting here. You're the one sitting here and doing it. And until they're doing it, who cares? And I learned a lot from him, and I'm so thankful that we were put together, but it didn't start great.
You could have said whatever the fuck you wanted. Just for the record.
Well,
yeah.
Say, fuck them. I mean, fuck them. They're getting on your ass. I mean, fuck them.
Well, and now it's worse because you have 40 Rudy Martzkis out there, and then you have every team blog and all that stuff. But it does seem like the one thing I've noticed with your style over the years, because I did feel like you were a Summerall disciple in the beginning, where you let the game tell the story. Don't get too jacked or too low, and not the Gus Johnson style and your style were certainly very, very different. But it does seem like in the last 5 years, you've gotten swept up in the moment a little bit more. Is that fair?
Yep, exactly. It's totally fair, and it's right. I think it's weird because when I started and I was doing Cardinal baseball, I was 21, and I was sitting in a booth next to my dad and Mike Shannon, and I don't think I fell into the trap of trying to sound like my dad. I was my own man, and he let me be my own man. He didn't micromanage me. He didn't, after games, go, well, here's how I would have done it, or here's how you should have done it. He left me alone, and I found my own style. Then I go to Fox, and I think I'm just one of the young guys. But when Troy and Collinsworth and I took over for Pat and John, I did fall into the trap of trying to sound or trying to imitate Pat Summerall, and you can't do it. Pat Summerall was the master of understatement, but he could do it that way. That was his style, and it worked well with Madden, who was all over the place and drawing stuff, and look at the snot hanging out of his nose, and blah, 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 boom, bam. And Pat would just kind of guide it back to the center line and go 2nd and 4.
Right.
Right. Touchdown. And I've started trying to do that. And I was working with two big personalities in Troy and Chris, and it carried over to my baseball. And then I got sucked into, you're rooting for this team, you're rooting against this team, and it killed me, and it took the life out of my voice. Then I almost lost my career because of hair plug surgery.
Right.
And it damaged my vocal cord, and I went from, thinking, I got the world licked to I'm done. I think my career's over. And when it came back after 9 months, I said, screw it. I'm going to do this game at the top of my lungs, and I'm going to get caught up more in the moment. and show how beautiful some of these moments are. And so I have evolved over the years. I've been lucky enough to do it for a long time, but I think I'm a different announcer and in many ways a better announcer now than I was when I was calling those Red Sox-Yankees Titanic matches back in the early 2000s. And I think that's the only way you can do it.
That 03-04 Red Sox-Yankees, Ali Frazier 1 and 2. I just can't imagine we're going to see anything like that again. The Cubs...
I don't think so.
The Cubs had it, but the Cubs were their own story. The Red Sox had the Cubs story, but also had this hammer-nail relationship with the Yankees that went 80 years and 7 generations. And I don't know. I just don't think we'll ever see anything like the Boone homer followed by a year later a 3-0 comeback. It's just I can't even, as the years go by, I can't even believe it happened. Like they had something, I can't remember, I forget where I read it, but because I went to both of these games. The Patriots played Seattle. I was reading the Belichick Brady book over the break. The Patriots beat Seattle at home on a Sunday in 2004 when they had their streak, which I think ended up being 21 games. And then 3 hours later was game 4. Yankees Red Sox 04.
Yeah, I remember
It was
that.
the same day. I went to both of those games. It's like I don't know. I just feel like I've peaked as a Boston sports fan. People don't want to hear it because they're like, you won all the titles. But it's like, I don't know what happens now. I don't know how we beat 04.
I agree.
How do you beat it? You can't.
I don't know who the counterpunch is going to be to the Cubs. And you're not going to have, I mean, is it going to be the Cardinals? Is it going to be, and it doesn't have the same venom that Yankees Red Sox had for, as you said, I mean, this was a rivalry that went decades, but it's different than the Cardinals and Cubs. I've lived the Cardinals and Cubs. And, believe me, people in Chicago think I'm, go to bed in my Cardinal PJs every night and wake up in my helmet car bed that's got a big Cardinal logo on it. And that's not the case. People in St. Louis, by the way, think that I've abandoned the Cardinals and I love every team but St. Louis, ironically enough. But I think the Yankees and the Red Sox in the early 2000s, especially with the personalities involved, whether it was Manny Ramirez and Curt Schilling, Pedro Martinez,
Jeter,
Roger Clemens, all those great Yankees, Jeter, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill. I just don't. Maybe I'm just, now wistful for days gone by, but I don't see that coming anytime soon in Major League Baseball.
And it was a different league too. It was very top heavy back then. And you had that A-Rod thing, which kind of symbolized everything that had happened between these two franchises for 80 years. The Red Sox think they have A-Rod. The trade falls through. Aaron Boone hurts his knee. All of a sudden, the Yankees have A-Rod. And it's like, oh, my God, this happened again. Yet again, they've won. Right. I mean, my whole life, I grew up, like when Yogi Berra told Bernie Williams in like the 99 playoffs, he thought Bernie Williams looked nervous. And he was like, Bernie, relax. We've been beating these guys for 80 years. I mean, that was my life. I don't think baseball, now that the Cubs have won, the Indians, 1948, but I think the Cavs did help the Cleveland narrative a little bit. I don't think the Indians winning the World Series, it'll still mean a ton, but it won't mean the same. To me, it's like the big ones left now are in football. I think the Browns and the Bills and the Vikings, those three specifically.
Wait a minute, you're not buying in on the Arizona Cardinals? They're the longest running.
Because they had franchise movement, but the Bills, it's like them coming back from, they haven't even made the playoff. They haven't won a playoff game this century. The Browns lost their team, and it's been a train wreck ever since they got it back. And then the Vikings have had 5 decades now of just getting kicked in the nuts. I would think those trump any baseball narrative that's left.
I'd still like to see. I'd love to see Cleveland, especially coming off this last World Series, where if I'm an Indians fan, and I know plenty of my family members. My dad grew up in Lakewood, Ohio, and was an Indians fan as a kid. So I had cousins and nieces and whatever that probably wanted to punch me in the face as I'm screaming and yelling for the Chicago Cubs. But I would love to see it because it's really a great city, and it's really in many ways a very pretty city when you fly in there and by the lake, and great suburbs, and now the downtown's picked up some, and the new stadiums are terrific. They're just waiting for the Browns to catch up. and for the Indians to finally do it. I would personally love to see the Indians end that drought. It's been too long for an organization that back when I was starting, and you know well, I mean, they were loaded, and they just never got it done. And they took a team to 7 games of a World Series in Florida and came up short. But man, that was a team that was certainly worthy of winning it all.
Yeah, there's a couple that are now entering it's been a long time, and like the Astros and the Rangers, I think, are two that the Astros never get mentioned in the tortured fan base conversation, but they've now been around for, I think, almost 5 decades. And they've had some tough hits over the years. You don't think of them as a tortured fan base, but I would definitely put them in there. And same thing for the Rangers. But I still think the Bills, Vikings, Browns, those 3 kind of gain steam. And I'll tell you another one. It's going to be really. We'll wrap this up in a second, but you have I'm sure you're calling Cowboys Packers this weekend, right?
Yes.
So the Cowboys now, it's been 20 plus years since they meant anything, and you have all these Cowboy fans now that are under 30 that have never really made the run before, and it's going to be really interesting.
And how amazing is it?
Yeah.
How amazing is it that they've stayed the most relevant while they have been since Aikman left? And since they had that run, they've been, up until this year, basically a 500 team. I mean, almost exactly 500 cumulative numbers.
Yeah.
And yet, as you've seen the articles, no team on network television brings the audience of the Dallas Cowboys, and no team has as much interest. And I would submit to you that it's because of the owner. I mean, Jerry Jones has kept that team relevant for whatever reason, whether it's the little feuds that have gone on, the Jimmy Johnson thing started it, they went to the top of the mountain and couldn't coexist, and then Aikman is phased out and the triplets are gone, and now they try again. But I mean, that team, there have been stretches where they've been terrible with like Chad Hutchinson at quarterback and different guys that shouldn't have been in the NFL probably or weren't capable of being a leading man on a stage like that. And my God, they have the most relevance in the NFL television ratings wise. I mean, it's undeniable. So he fascinates me. Jerry Jones is the GM and the guy that will kind of say kooky shit, and then he now they've kind of backed up his plan. I mean, when does he get credit for being the GM that's put this offensive line together and took hits for drafting a running back as high as he drafted Ezekiel Elliott? People thought that was a bad pick. And look what he's done.
And the stadium. I mean, he made 2 of the great business decisions in the history of the league. One was just what he paid for the Cowboys. And just he knew he was buying a brand, and it was, he wasn't looking at what he was buying, more like what they meant, which was super smart. And people really weren't totally thinking that way in the 80s. And then the stadium is, one of the great things that has been built by an owner in the last 30 years, and it's a spectacle and it's freaking awesome.
I think he'll go into the Hall of Fame potentially this year, and I think you can look at whatever business Hall of Fame there is. Jimmy Johnson, even at the height of their "I don't like you, you don't like me" relationship, said if I had $1 left in my pocket, I would give it to Jerry Jones and say, make something out of this. This guy is a forward-thinking business genius. You may not like him as a GM. I personally think he deserves a lot of credit for this team. But, man, as far as forward-thinking people in the NFL, the money he's made the other owners from these TV deals where he and Kraft, but he's kind of taken the baton forward even more. And with these stadiums that are being built, multi-purpose, multi-event across different sports. Holy God, that guy has made money, and he was flat broke when he bought the Cowboys in '89, to the point where when I interviewed him on my DirecTV show, I talked to his daughter, and she said, I remember him being so stressed. We were at the family dinner table, and he was raising his water glass to his mouth to drink, and his hand was shaking so much the ice cubes were clanking against the side of the glass. He was a wreck.
Wow.
And look where he sits right now. It's remarkable.
What Super Bowl do you think Fox wants? Do you think they would rather have Cowboys Patriots or Cowboys Steelers?
You know,
What gets a higher rating? I don't even know.
I think Cowboys Patriots. If I'm going to go along with this line of questioning, I will answer your question. I think, you know, we get accused, as we've already talked to a ridiculous length on this podcast, of who you're rooting for and all that. I don't care, but
Right.
I think the average fan knows Brady and Belichick, and it might
And Jerry
bring
Jones and the Cowboys.
Jerry
Yeah.
Jones and all that stuff. So the hardcore football fan, it doesn't matter. But if you're looking for what rating is the NFL and Fox in this case, just because it's our turn in the
Yeah.
3-team cycle here, you know, will at the end of this year where everybody's been talking about ratings and ratings are down and why are ratings down, the casual fan probably knows the most about the Cowboys and the Patriots. And I think that has to affect a rating. But beyond that, who cares? I think we're in a position where all the matchups, for the most part, would be compelling.
Yeah, Rodgers, the Cowboys, the Pats, the Steelers, even Matt Ryan. I think it's a pretty nice one. It's the only
How
one
about
that's
Kansas City?
Kansas City, and then I
I
guess
think they're a fun team to watch. Of all the national games that I saw coming out of the AFC, I'm going to watch a Patriots game, and I found myself locked in on a Chiefs game because of Tyreek Hill, because I love the quarterback. I love his story, and I really like the head coach. And so to me, they're a really fun watch.
and they're only laying 1.5 at home against the Steelers. They're now an underrated watch too. Hey, last question, then we got to go. Aaron Rodgers, watching him yesterday, is that the best you've seen a quarterback play in a game you've announced, or is there somebody who's still a little bit higher?
That he's consistently the best I see, because not only do you combine, you know, everybody talks about, and I'm not qualified, even though most guys who aren't act like they are, about the release, the quick release, and you know what he does with his arm. But with his legs, there's layer number 2, and with his mind and the way I think he's a very intelligent, legitimately intelligent guy. You can see that because he won Celebrity Jeopardy,
Right.
and you know that there's a level of intelligence there where he looks at a game from a completely different angle. And so now you see what he does, and it's well documented. He has rules. We asked him, how do you catch all these teams with too many men on the field? And he'll tell you where the ball has to be. It's got to be inside the numbers. It's got to be away from the team's bench that they're playing. And then he's looking for different clues as to are they running guys on? Are they running guys off? So he's developed that into a skill that it's fun to watch Aikman talk to him about it, because you know the wheels are turning in Aikman's head going, man, I never thought about that.
God.
So you've got incredible arm, a complete mastery of an offense, legs that kill you when everybody's covered. And then what he did inside the pocket, dancing around yesterday for that first touchdown, was unbelievable. And he will let the play bleed down, and he'll take a sack every once in a while. He took sacks yesterday he shouldn't have taken.
Yeah.
He got lulled into a false sense of security, but he also scored the first touchdown because he was willing. The third touchdown because he was willing to let stuff develop and risk a sack and hit the touchdown, and then all that offside stuff. He's the best going. He's the best I've ever covered.
The thing that's great about him is he kind of solves the other team as the game goes along. You know, he had problems the first 25 minutes in that game yesterday, but it's almost like a boxer. Like Andre Ward is the best of this. Andre Ward, somewhere between the first round and the 6th round, kind of figures out the other guy and how close he can get to him and just what's going to work and not work. And Rodgers the same way. But you could see it midway through third quarter. It's like, all right, I figured it out. These guys are done. And then he just does it. It didn't matter that Jordy Nelson was out. He's just like, I know what to do now. I'm going to do it. And that was it.
I think boxing is a good comparison because there's a feel. It's more than just let's go to the sideline and look at the tablet and look at what guy. It's when he's in there and stuff's flying around. There's a feel with his feet where to go, and he's aware of what's around him, and he's aware of who he's looking at in the secondary and where his guys are. And then their scramble drill, which we get a chance to watch in practice, is like a choreographed mess, and it looks sloppy, and it looks like, well, the play broke down. And there are times that Davante Adams told us in our meeting, there are times in practice where the first guy will be open and Aaron won't throw it, and he'll let the play break down, and then they go through their rules, what to do to come back to him to get open. He's looking for the big strike. He'll forego the 9-yard completion, the 12-yard completion for a 48 one, because that's what he's looking for, the home run all the time, and that's pure feel.
Yeah,
and that's the artistry of a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And Brady, your guy Brady, has the same feel. There's an intelligence there that you don't get with other guys.
Yeah, and Peyton Manning had it too. And going way back, Montana definitely had it. But it's something that separates the great quarterbacks from the great quarterbacks. And it's a select few.
Yeah, and I didn't cover Peyton enough. I didn't do a lot of those games
Yeah.
because it was AFC, and I got into the NFL at the end of Montana. I did
Right.
one of his games in Kansas City. But that's a guy I would have loved to have gotten to know as a player, and not as the Skechers pitch man or whatever he is now. I know him, when I see him around, and he's a great guy. But I wish I could have sat in a production meeting with him and kind of go through what he's looking at. But I don't know that they can even explain it. I don't know that they can. Aaron Rodgers can't sit there in a meeting room and tell you, how he found, I don't know, it was a Davante Adams for that touchdown.
Right.
He can't tell you how. It's just he has a feel when he's in the moment that other guys don't have, and that's what greatness is.
Well, please come back on before the Super Bowl. Joe Buck, Lucky Bastard
That's
is
up
the
to
book.
Louis K.
I know. Well, I'll negotiate with our publicist. But Joe Buck, Lucky Bastard is the book. Cowboys Packers this week, NFC title game next week, and then the Super Bowl. Good luck with this run of awesome football games here.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right,
Bill.
thanks for coming on.
Yep.
All right, thanks to Cousin Sal. Thanks to Joe Buck. Thanks to SeatGeek. Buy and sell tickets on your phone by downloading their free app right now. Thanks to Channel 33. That's the Ringers pop culture podcast that features Jam Session, the Masked Man's Wrestling Podcast, our Gamer Podcast, and as of this month, my brand new Sports Movie Hall of Fame podcast with Chris Ryan, as well as Bachelor Party with Julia Littman. That's our Bachelor recap. Subscribe to Channel 33 and all of the Ringers' other podcasts on your favorite audio platform. And good luck to John Favreau and company on their Pod Saves America podcast, which launches this week. Talk to you later in the week.